Hello everybody, I'm Lumpy the Pumpkin, and I am here to welcome you back to the Jay the Reader channel, where we talk about everything books, spooky stuff, and middle grade horror. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It is greatly appreciated. Now sit back and try to relax, because this video will give you goosebumps.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am Jay the Reader, and today we are talking about a Goosebumps book. I have some mixed feelings about it. Let's get into this. Night of the Living Dummy follows Lindy and Chris. They are twin sisters. One day they're hanging out outside and they have a house that's being built right next to their house, and they go over there and mess around a little bit, and Lindy finds something in the, the work dumpster, and that's what she finds is Slappy. The dummy. She finds Slappy and she starts practicing with Slappy, and Chris is getting jealous. She wants a dummy of her own because Lindy's getting all of this attention just because she's really talented as a ventriloquist, and Chris is getting kind of fed up with it, and she begs her dad for her own dummy. Her dad says it's too expensive, yada yada yada, but this is where the story picks up. And warning, there are going to be spoilers in this video. Chris ends up getting a dummy of her own. Her dad goes out and gets one from a pawn shop. His name is Mr. Wood. That's what she names him, Mr. Wood. So yeah, in this, there's two dummies in this book, Mr. Wood and Slappy. Slappy gets his name because that is what Lindy named him when she found him. Chris is a little freaked out by Slappy. Lindy makes Slappy slap Chris across the face one night when she's performing a ventriloquist act for her family, which is kind of funny, but Slappy really doesn't do much in this book, and you'll see that as I explain it more, but he's not the main dummy in this book that comes to life. So, Lindy and Chris kind of have a rivalry going on at this point, and Chris is really trying to be the better ventriloquist. Lindy's trying to be the better ventriloquist. They're fighting constantly. Actually, at one point, Lindy actually makes Chris think Mr. Wood is alive and has him doing all this weird stuff all over the house. And then she ends up saying, haha, sorry, Chris, that was me messing with you. I wanted to see if I could scare you. Lindy's kind of a brat. Lindy's working all these kids' birthday parties and rubbing it in Chris's face. Lindy gets like a spot on TV, like a talent show TV thing for their local news, and she rubs that in Chris's face. But Chris does end up getting her moment to shine. She books this school's concert, and she's opening up the whole concert with her and Mr. Wood doing a ventriloquist act. One day she is practicing, and she realizes she's practicing for the opening of the school concert, and she looks down in the pocket of Woody's shirt. She sees a little card, and this card has a saying written on it. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to butcher it, but she reads that out loud, and that is what brings Mr. Wood to life. So it's the night before this school performance where Chris is opening up the whole show with a ventriloquist act with her and Mr. Wood, and some older neighbors are over, and the mom and dad of these two girls come down and do a little ventriloquist act for them. Lindy does her ventriloquist act and is normal with Slappy, whatever. They loved it. The old couple loved it. And then it's time for Chris to do her act. And remember, she already read that card out loud, which summons Mr. Wood to be alive. And Mr. Wood goes off the rails. She's saying derogatory things about this older couple, really kind of cutting them down and being really rude. It was shocking that was in a kid's book. This book does not hold back. Understandably, this upset the parents, and they are mad at Chris, and Chris goes up to a room, and Lindy's like, why would you do that? And Chris is like, it's not me doing it, it's Mr. Wood, he's alive. No one believes her, of course, but they still allow her to perform the next night at school. This is when this book goes off the rails. It's the only way I can describe it. This book, moving forward, I'm going to give a warning. I don't think this book is really a middle grade horror book. This is more young adult horror and in themes, and yeah, so warning right there. This book is kind of triggering in a way. She's at the school. She's setting up. The teacher there, the music teacher's helping her set up for the opening of the concert with her and the dummy. And It's mentioned that I'm a heavier dude myself, so I'm not coming at them. It's mentioned that the teacher is a heavier set lady, and this is where it gets crazy for me for a kid's book. She starts her act. Of course, Mr. Wood goes off the rails again, and he starts talking down upon this teacher for her appearance, and I mean digging in, bullying this teacher. And he pukes. He does an Exorcist type thing. You've never seen the movie The Exorcist, but I don't know if you guys have watching this, but in The Exorcist, Regan pukes this green stuff out of her mouth, and Mr. Wood does that. And the way R.L. Stine described it was like rotting meat, the smell of this green sludge. He spit it all over the people in the crowd, rotting meat and burning rubber and like sour milk. It's nasty, and it goes on for a while. Like, this scene does not end very quickly. When she gets home, parents are obviously mad, said, "Dummy's gone, you're acting out of control. We don't know how you did that throw up stunt, but the dummy, you're done with the dummy. The dummy's going in the closet." Dummy doesn't stay in the closet though. He walks out. He attacks Chris when she finds out that, yeah, he's walking and talking. This is actually real. It finally fully set in for Chris. It would have set in for me a long time ago when I realized I wasn't the one controlling this dummy's voice. And then, of course, Lindy walks to the stairs and says, "What are you doing?" Because Chris and Mr. Wood get into this confrontation where they're fighting. Mr. Wood's biting her, all this stuff. And then Lindy walks out and sees it all happening, and she finally realizes, oh boy, this dummy is alive. And she wasn't lying the whole time. This is where it goes crazy, so buckle up. Mr. Wood tells these two girls, if you don't listen to me, I am going to hurt everyone you love. Your dog, your parents. He alludes to their friends, and it's dark. It's dark. I'm not gonna use the exact wording of what he's trying to say, but you can pick it up. It is dark, 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 dark. Of course, parents wake up during all this fiasco. This is like 3 in the morning. So parents wake up, they're like, what's going on? They still don't believe them. At this point, I maybe would believe my kid, because both of these girls are now visibly upset. They say, go to bed, we're handless in the morning. I'm getting rid of the dummy on Monday. This is a Friday. So after the weekend, I'm getting rid of the dummies. We're done. Lindy and Chris say, we're not waiting, we're getting rid of this thing right now. So they end up stuffing him into a suitcase and burying him in a pile of dirt at the house that's being built next door. That's their master plan. Of course it's not over though. This is a horror book. So Chris walks downstairs the next morning and she sees Mr. Wood sitting on the counter, and the mom's like, why is this down here? We told you we're done with these dummies. Dad walks down and says, we're going to the store. When I get back, I'm going to take Mr. Wood or something to along this effect, and then on Monday I'm getting rid of him. This is when this book pops off. I hated the scene. I hated the scene. I hated the scene. I'm not even going in depth. Lindy comes down. She's like, the dummies. She realizes the dummy is back. The dummy hops off and pretty much looks at the twins' dog, and he does things to the dog. Dog does survive. I'm not going any more in depth than that. Crazy, crazy stuff here. Crazy, crazy stuff here. What ends up happening is they take the dummy outside. They're doing construction next door at the house. There's like these bulldozers, and they throw him under a bulldozer, and he shatters and dies. There's always a twist though, and this twist involves our friend Slappy. Slappy seemed to be not alive the whole time. He was just a regular dummy, and that was confusing to me. Like, Slappy's definitely alive in the second Night of the Living Dummy 2 episode, which alludes that he's alive in the second book. I haven't read the second book, but he's alive. Chris goes upstairs and leans over to the window, and Slappy's sitting in the window to look out, and Slappy reaches up and grabs her and says, now that the other dummy's gone, pretty much, we can have some fun. And that is where it ends. It ends on that. Slappy is only alive in the very last sentence on the last page of this book. I am very conflicted on this book. It's not what I expected. I expected Slappy action the whole time. Slappy is iconic. I was actually going to put the word Slappy in the thumbnail of this video, but I don't even want to do that now because it feels disingenuous, because this is not a book about Slappy. Mr. Wood is a menace. Mr. Wood is a menace. So let me break it down. When I do Goosebumps, kind of talks and reviews, I don't really call these reviews, but Goosebumps, like talking about them, I like to do my positives and my negatives. My positives are, for a horror book, this is scary. Mr. Wood is a menace. He is evil. He is scary. He does not care. He is foul-mouthed, and he just does not care. He does things to the dog. This is not a kid's book, in my opinion. This is a horror book. Not a middle grade horror book. Don't get me wrong. This is a young adult horror book across the board. I do not consider this a kid's book. If I had a kid who was maybe 7 years old, and that's kind of like the lower end of this target demographic here of these books, I don't even know if I want him to read them. I don't know them reading this. I don't know. This book has me frazzled. But some of the other positives I would say is pacing. This book is very creepy the whole time. As soon they find Slappy in the very beginning of the book, and he's just creepy. We just know he's creepy. So when we don't know what's really going on, it gets you. We're like, what's happening? We don't know. It's leading up to the imagination. Once we find out what's going on, the pacing's also very good. I think the pacing's really good throughout this whole book. That is another strong positive. Negatives are, I think this book is too much for children, and this book, that is the target demographic here, is kids, and I think it's a lot. I don't like the whole dog part at all. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I read Goosebumps to kind of feel a bit of whimsical imagination, and this book wasn't a whimsical imagination, it was a dark imagination. And while it's obviously a horror book, they're whimsical, they're middle grade. That's what's so good about them. They're all about imagination and fun, and this book, while it was a roller coaster of a ride, I don't think it was very lighthearted like some of the other ones. Don't get me wrong, I like some of the other Goosebumps books that are darker themed and that aren't super lighthearted, but one that's coming to mind right now is Haunted Mask, but that book has a message, a good message. This book doesn't really have a message. This book is all about carnage, and this is the one Goosebumps book I've read so far that I can see where parents, back in the 90s when these came out, apparently parents were irate, and I heard even some people were burning them. Some parents were burning these books. And if this was the one book their kid had, I get it. I get it. I don't understand the burning thing. That's craziness, but I do understand why parents would be mad about the content in this book for children. That's what I was trying to say there. Let's get to my rankings, all right? Let's just get to the rankings, and then I want to put this book down and not read it ever again. It's not because I think it's a bad book. It's just a very dark book. Fun ranking, I'm giving this book it was entertaining. I'll give it that. It had me on the edge of my seat, but was it fun? Yeah, 3 out of 5 on the fun ranking. That's what I'm giving it. I don't think it was it was not fun in a very light way. It was very dark, but it kept going, so I'm giving it on that. That's the fun ranking, 3 out of 5. Scare ranking is a 5 out of 5, hands down. I don't think I've ever given anything a 5 out of 5. Maybe I have, but this is definitely a 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. If you want to know why it's a 5 out of 5, go back and listen to everything I just said about this book. 5 out of 5. Overall ranking, I really don't want to be biased here because I thought this book was pretty dark. I know a lot of people love this book. I know some people don't like this book, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 just because I think it was written very well. It did keep me entertained even though it was dark entertainment. So yeah, 4 out of 5 on the overall ranking. I do recommend it. I don't recommend it for younger readers. I do recommend it though if you're a Goosebumps completionist, and maybe if you want to see a darker side to R.L. Stine that we don't get to see quite often in a lot of the Goosebumps books. Here you go. This is one of the darkest Goosebumps book I've read so far. It is the darkest Goosebumps book I've read so far. This trumps everything. It's definitely not my favorite Goosebumps book, but it's the darkest and the scariest I've read, hands down. Thank you all so much for watching. This is all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, if you could hit that like and subscribe button, it helps me out a ton and it costs you nothing, so it's a win-win. And if you do that, you get to see more cool content about Goosebumps and other middle grade horror books. God bless you guys. I'll catch you in the next one.